The tools, products, and techniques in this video are intended for use by adult modelers. Anyone under the age of 13 should always have adult supervision when using said tools, products, and techniques.
Now, back to G.I. Joe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Painted Plastic. Brandon here with episode 2 of our Cobra G.T.P custom build. So I thought we would just jump right in with the modifications and all the things I want to do to this thing. And I think we'll start up here in the front. If you remember from episode 1, I want to make treads, right, to go up front. And that's where we're going to start. So there's a couple things we need to do. We need to figure out an axle, right, for the front. And then we need to remove these old wheel posts. So, yep. So I sort of had an idea for the axle portion. I have, let me just grab them. These are some polystyrene sticks. So I just sort of gauged, you know, like how long I wanted it to be. Right, sort of like that. And using my X-Acto, just sort of make a line, and it'll break. If you score it, it'll just sort of break. Right? Really easy stuff to work with. Also, something else, I don't know if you can tell, but it sort of has a bevel to it, right? Both the long ends sort of has a slight bevel. So I just took my sanding stick and just sort of really quickly just sanded off one side, right? Just enough to sort of knock it down a little bit. Now you can see there's still a little bit of a gap, but that's not a big deal, right? We're going to come back and tidy all that up. So, got my extra thin, and very simply, we'll just touch that to the gap. This extra thin will get sucked into the gap and weld these two pieces right together. I did sort of test this out, right? And it's a little bit, like, it's pretty good that way, but it's not, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. It's not tight enough up and down. So basically what I did is I also have some styrene card, and basically, since I need a strip that's as wide as this, I put it on the, let's see which side is straight. Yep. Put it on here and just lightly sort of score it, right, just like that. And same thing out that way, and then you can just bend it, right, and break it. This stuff is super easy to work with. Super easy to work with. And you get that, and we'll glue that on to the side, and then we'll do a lot of sanding to, you know, get all these seams right. But yep, just get my glue again, and again we're just going to touch that gap. All right, there we go. Now this still will not quite fit. We'll need to sand it down a little bit once it dries, but for now we're just going to leave this to dry, and yeah, we will shape it up once it's good and cured. In the meantime, we can be modifying the axles up here, because all this stuff needs to go away, right? To do that, let me... Did I not grab my nippers? I don't think I grabbed my... Let me grab my nippers. Be right back. All right. Got 2 nippers. These are my really precise nippers, and these are just like chopping tree limbs, right? So to start, we're going to just use this and see how it cuts. Hopefully this... That's not bad. And we still got a little notch there, so we'll just carefully nip away at that. There we go. Still got a little bit of a bump, but that's okay. We can sand that down. And then I think I also want to take out that little hump, right? We don't necessarily need that there. So we will go. There we go. All right, just like that. Now we'll have some sanding to do, and now we'll bring in the sandpaper. I've got a few different sanding sticks here, coarse, medium, all the way down to a really, really fine. And we are just going to Alright everybody, this is all pretty much dry. It's not completely dry, I don't think, but it's dry enough that we can modify it a little bit. And the first thing we're going to do is just sand down all these rough edges, right, where it's not uniform. And we're going to, what did I do? There we go. And we're going to cut off these ends. Whoops! Watch your eyes. Don't need those. And now let's do some sanding. This is the coarse. But yep, we're just gonna kind of knock these down a little bit. Clean them up. I'll probably do this in fast forward just to save you guys the agony of all the sanding. Alright, so I've got this piece just about the way I want it. Still got one sort of rough side, but that's alright, because that's what's going to be glued to our part, right? If we glue it on sort of like that, right? Should be good to go. Got our plastic weld here, and we're just going to drip a little sort of down in that seam. All right, so I will give this a good 24 hours or so to fully cure, and then I will move on to the next step. Back in a minute. All right, everybody, this is pretty well attached and cured. Feels nice and strong. Just to give you an idea of what this will look like. Something like that. Yep. I mean, they will be sort of firmly attached, obviously, when it's all said and done, but yeah, something sort of like that. which means we can move on to the rear wheels, which, you know, I know in episode 1 I said I wanted to do sort of a double wheel, and I think that would look really cool. But while I was messing with the rocket pods, you know, I want to put the rocket pods back here. Initially, I was going to kind of cut all this off and mount. Let's see. These are the little attachment points, and I was going to try to mount that up top like this. But that would mean having to cut all this out and sanding all this down and cutting this down, when it occurred to me that I could just mount it underneath, right? There's actually a little place where you can butt it up against that piece of plastic. And yeah, so I think that's the route I want to go. Now, the only problem with that is if I do a double wheel, it ends up sort of being in the way. I don't know if you can see what I've got here, but the rocket pod ends up being in the way of the second wheel. So in order to do this, I have to sacrifice that second wheel, which is kind of a bummer because that would have looked pretty cool, I think, to have a dually on the back. But it also means it'll be a lot easier to make the rear wheels work. And this is how I plan on doing it. Right. These are, let me grab, this was the Mean Dog. I had a Mean Dog shell, but all of the wheel pegs were broken, right? All but two, this one and this one, right? So I basically just took my snips and sort of cut those out, and then when I got them cut down, I just sort of sanded around, smoothed them out, yeah, and made two little wheel posts, right? And they fit the Mean Dog wheels. So all we basically have to do is just attach them to the body, right? Now to do that, I'm going to reattach these. I want to make sure the wheels are even with the treads, right? So I'm just going to stand the wheel up and grab a pin and go right in the center of the wheel and just sort of mark it, just so I can get an idea, right, of whereabouts. So I'm going to center it, but that's pretty much the center of the wheel. So now I can just center this on there, and the wheels and the tread should all be at the same height, right? Pretty cool. So let's do that. Again, I'm going to go with the plastic weld, and I will put that just about where I want it. I'm pretty much just lining it up with the bottom there, and just touch some plastic weld around the edge. That will seep underneath and hopefully create a pretty good bond. All right, let's do the other side. Same thing, just going to line it up sort of right at the bottom. Alright everybody, so there's the rear axles. I think I'm going to give them one more little blob of glue. So I will let these sit for a little while, probably overnight. Make sure they're good and cured before we move on. And since this episode is getting a little bit long already, I think I'm going to break it into two parts. I think we will end it right here for part one, and we'll do the other armament bits. We've got the big gun on the back and the missile pods, right? We'll do all that. We'll do all that in part two. So, yep. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hope you enjoyed these little bits that we did for this episode, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Look! Smoke! Let's get out of here! Ow!
Don't go out that door.
It's barbecue!
You might let in poisonous gases. Stuff something under the door. And stay low. That way you avoid the heat and gases that rise upward. Remember, if a fire breaks out in your home, always test the door first. If it's hot, find another exit or yell for help.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe!